The wind howled through the mountain pass like a living thing, rattling the wooden shutters of the small cabin. Snow fell in relentless sheets, erasing the world beyond the front porch, burying the dirt path that connected the family's home to the rest of the tiny village. Inside, the fire in the stone hearth crackled weakly, throwing long shadows across the timber walls. The family huddled close, trying to preserve warmth in a night that felt like it had no end. The storm was merciless, its icy grip silencing even the usual forest sounds. No owls, no wolves, not even the crunch of deer in the snow. It was as if the mountain itself had gone still, holding its breath. The young mother, Anna, adjusted the blanket around her 1-year-old baby, who whimpered restlessly despite the heat of the fire. Beside her husband Daniel kept glancing toward the frosted windows, unease pressing into his chest. Nights like these could kill a man caught unprepared in the woods. He knew it all too well. Then it happened. A sudden, frantic scratching against the wooden door jolted them both. It was sharp, ragged, almost desperate. The sound of claws raking against frozen wood. Daniel froze, every instinct screaming danger. Anna's breath caught in her throat. The scratching came again, louder this time, punctuated by a heavy thud against the porch. Something massive was outside. The baby cried out, startled. But instead of shrinking back, his wide eyes seemed fixed on the door as though he already knew what waited beyond it. Daniel grabbed the oil lamp and crept closer. The scratching stopped, replaced by a heavy, deliberate huff, followed by another. He tightened his grip on the lamp handle, his pulse hammering. He knew that sound. A bear. But what in God's name would a bear be doing here, scratching at their door in the middle of a storm? He pulled aside the curtain covering the frosted window and instantly froze. There, illuminated by the glow of the porch lantern half buried in snow, stood a mother bear. Her massive frame loomed just feet away, her fur caked with ice and snow, steam curling from her breath in the bitter air. Her eyes, wild, wide, and shining, locked directly on the glass. But there was something off. No rage, no threat, just desperation. Daniel's stomach dropped when his gaze shifted. Behind her, pressed into the swirling drifts, were 2 tiny cubs. They huddled together, trembling violently, their little bodies nearly swallowed by the snow. Their whines rose faintly above the roar of the wind, so pitiful and thin it made Anna cover her mouth to stifle a cry. This wasn't a hunting bear. This wasn't a predator circling their home for prey. This was something else, something unthinkable. The mother bear lowered her head slowly, not in aggression, but almost in surrender. She shifted her weight, pressing one paw against the porch as though she were kneeling. Her body language was unmistakable. She was pleading. Daniel stumbled back from the window. No. This is wrong, he whispered, his voice hoarse. She shouldn't be here. They don't come to people like this. Anna clutched the baby closer, her heart torn between instinctive fear and the unbearable sight of the cubs suffering. The bear's great head lifted again, her eyes flickering from Daniel to the faint cry of the baby in her arms. For a terrifying moment, it almost looked as if she understood. The air in the cabin thickened with dread. Should they open the door? It was madness. A bear could tear them all apart in seconds. Yet the mother's posture, her almost human plea, pulled at something primal and undeniable. Compassion. The baby squirmed, his small fists pushing against Anna's chest. He whined louder, then turned toward the window, his tear-filled eyes catching the faint movement of the bear outside. Against all logic, his crying ceased. He blinked, transfixed, staring straight into the frost-rimmed eyes of the animal. And then something impossible happened. The bear stilled. Her breathing slowed, the frantic fog of her breath easing. Her cubs whimpered again, but she remained locked on the baby's gaze. It was as if the storm, the fear, the fire inside the cabin, all of it had been suspended in that silent exchange between infant and beast. Anna felt her arms go weak. "Daniel," she whispered, barely daring to break the spell. Daniel shook his head in disbelief, his hand hovering near the rifle propped against the wall. His instincts screamed at him to grab it, to protect his family, to banish the impossible. But his gut twisted with hesitation. This wasn't an attack. It was something deeper. Then came the moment that sealed the night into their memory forever. The baby wriggled free of the blanket and slid from Anna's lap. Before she could stop him, he crawled across the wooden floor, his tiny palms pressing against the cold boards. He moved with determination, a single finger pointing toward the door, toward the desperate mother bear waiting just beyond it. "Daniel!" Anna gasped, lunging forward, but the baby was already there, his little hand pressing against the bottom of the door frame. His wide eyes remained fixed on the shape outside. Daniel's breath came in sharp bursts as he reached for the rifle. His mind battled itself. Was this a predator waiting to pounce, or a mother begging for mercy? The line between danger and compassion blurred until he could no longer tell which was real. The bear pressed closer, her massive shadow covering the door. The baby giggled softly, giggled as though greeting an old friend. Daniel's hand trembled on the rifle stock. "What if?" he whispered more to himself than to Anna. "What if she's not here to hurt us, but to ask for help?" The fire snapped violently, casting their shadows long across the walls, as if echoing the impossible weight of the moment. And with that question, everything hung in the balance: the storm outside, the fragile lives on both sides of the door, and the fate of a family caught in a night that defied reason. The baby cooed again, still pointing while the mother bear lowered her head once more, waiting. The air seemed to freeze in that impossible silence, leading to the question no one dared answer. Would they open the door? The storm had been brewing for hours, a never-ending wall of white that wrapped the mountain village in total silence. Snow slammed against the windows like icy fingers, shaking the glass as the family snuggled close around the fire. Inside their cozy wooden cabin, the warmth from the hearth felt inviting. But outside, the night was just plain brutal. The father checked the latch on the door for the third time, muttering under his breath about the dangers of wild animals in such weather. The mother rocked their baby gently, the child cooing softly, unaware of the violence howling beyond the walls. They were isolated, miles from the nearest neighbor, with only the storm for company. The world outside felt uninhabitable, lifeless, until the sound came. At first it was faint, a scraping, a hesitant scratch like branches dragged across wood. The father froze. The mother lifted her head, listening. Then it came again, sharper, louder, deliberate. Something was outside their door. The father's face tightened. He grabbed the iron poker from the fire and signaled for silence. The baby stopped babbling, almost as if sensing the shift in the room's atmosphere. The scratching grew frantic, desperate, followed by a low, guttural sound. Not quite a growl, but not human either. The mother gasped, clutching the baby tighter. "Don't open it," the father whispered harshly. "It's not safe." But then came a sound neither of them expected. A whimper. Faint, high-pitched, fragile. Not one, but two. It pierced through the storm, fragile and haunting. Slowly, against the father's protests, the mother edged closer to the window and peered through the frost-coated glass. What she saw rooted her to the spot. A massive shape loomed on the porch, snow clinging to its fur in thick patches. A bear. Not charging, not growling, but standing still, trembling. Her eyes glistened with something raw, almost human, fear. And behind her, barely visible in the swirling snow, were two tiny forms, each no larger than a household dog. Cubs. Their thin cries were nearly swallowed by the wind, but their desperation was unmistakable. The mother's breath caught. Bears did not come to humans for help. They avoided them, feared them, or fought them. But this one, she was begging. The father yanked her back from the window. "Are you insane?" That's a wild animal. She could kill us in seconds." "She's not attacking," the mother whispered. "Look at her. She's—" Her voice faltered. "She's asking." The baby squirmed in her arms, reaching toward the door with surprising intent. The small hand pressed against the wooden surface. Tiny fingers splayed. Almost instantly, the bear moved closer, lifting one massive paw. The cabin trembled as the paw pressed against the same spot from the other side, perfectly aligned with the baby's hand. For a moment, the room seemed to still. The storm outside raged, but inside, time froze. The mother felt her heart pound so violently she thought it might break her ribs. She could hardly breathe. The father cursed under his breath. "This is madness. It's a trick of the storm. She's dangerous." But his words rang hollow even to himself. What they were witnessing defied explanation. The bear lowered her head, and for the first time they noticed the way her shoulders shook. Not from aggression, but exhaustion. Her body sagged with weakness, her fur matted with ice. She was not here as a predator. She was here because she had no choice. The cubs stumbled forward, collapsing into the snow. Their cries weakened to faint chirps, fragile as glass. One lifted its head just enough to nuzzle its sibling, as though urging it to stay awake. The baby let out a soft coo, the sound startlingly gentle amid the storm's fury. The mother's throat tightened as the bear responded, not with a growl, but with a low, mournful rumble, vibrating deep in her chest. It was a plea. The father's grip on the poker wavered. His instincts screamed danger, but the scene unfolding before them was unlike anything he had ever encountered. Predators did not beg. Wild animals did not stand trembling on porches in the middle of snowstorms. This was something else. Something that didn't fit into the natural order he thought he knew. The mother whispered, "She's a mother too." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the baby's soft sounds and the storm clawing at the walls. The impossible encounter had drawn a line across their lives, one that could not be ignored. The bear pressed her paw against the wood again, harder this time, and the baby mirrored her with astonishing calm. It wasn't fear in the child's face. It was recognition, as though the tiny heart inside that fragile body understood something the adults could not. The mother's hands shook as she looked from the baby to the bear and back again. This wasn't chance. This was a crossing of worlds, human and wild, predator and prey, separated by fear yet connected by something deeper, unspoken, undeniable. The father's voice was a whisper now, not of anger but of dread. "If we open that door, we may not survive the night, but deep inside, all three of them knew the truth. If they didn't, the bear and her cubs wouldn't survive either. And so the impossible question hung heavy in the cabin air, waiting to be answered by a choice that could mean life or death.